Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 21 Days of Business. If this is the first time you're catching this video series, my name is Yasmin Salem-Hamden. I'm the founder of coachesandcompany.com. We are your go-to digital destination for all things legal when you are on this entrepreneurial journey. And all through the month of November, we're going to be sharing amazing interviews with guest experts each day, answering your questions as they relate to your business. And today we are focusing on that juicy pre-launch period that sometimes gets overlooked. It is arguably one of the most crucial periods of your launch. And today's guest, Jackie Sunga of Jackie Sunga Co., will be joining us and giving us the scoop on all the types of content that you should be creating and sharing with your audience before you officially launch or open cart on your offer. Hi, Jackie.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Yasmin.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so pumped for today's convo because like I said, arguably one of the most important parts of your launch plan. And when we are, in the thick of it, and we've got all these moving parts, and we're working with, our existing clients, and planning on this new launch, and we are creating that offer, and we're having conversations with our people that are interested and need our help in whatever area we operate in. Sometimes we can get caught up in all of the things, right? And before we know it, it's time to launch, and we haven't effectively communicated what it is that we need to communicate before opening cart. So I'm super pumped to hear from you. For those that are not familiar with you, if you would please share a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So I am a launch strategist and conversion copywriter for the coaches and consultants and course creators. Most of our clients are therapists, but we do not limit ourselves to working only with therapists. We love working with business owners who really share our values of prioritizing your mental health and making business profitable and sustainable. And I'm really excited to be here today.
Yay! I'm really excited to have you. I love that you have worked with a lot of therapists. It's such an interesting point because more women in particular that are in these traditional career paths are taking things digital and moving into the coaching and consulting space, creating their own offers, having their own launches. And so I know you are very familiar with that pre-launch period, and you've provided a lot of support to your clients in that way. I can't wait to hear about conversion copywriting and how that works into the equation, but let's just kick things off with what is the content that we need to be sharing during this pre-launch period?
All right, so let's start off with usually what happens when we're not thinking about pre-launch is we'll just be working on the offer, creating the actual deliverable, whether it's a course or a PDF, or if it's a digital product, for example, we're working on that, but then we forget to tell our audience what's actually going on. So we actually need to give ourselves the opportunity to turn our brain to think about what the customer's experience is before they actually make the sale. And one of my favorite conversion copywriters, someone who I've taken some of his courses, his name is Rye Schwartz, talks about this idea of coaching the conversion, and how the idea is that we want to think about how the person who's buying your offer is actually a very different person than when they actually first heard about it. And if you are in the coaching space, you want to ask yourself, how can I actually coach them and think differently before they actually buy? Why do I have to wait for them to become a customer before I actually teach them to reframe some identity beliefs about themselves or about the industry or what have you? So we want to ask ourselves, how much of a runway do we want to give to our customers so that they can have the time to really shift those beliefs and have that thoughtful consideration of what does it mean to be a buyer. So I would recommend having about 60 days of a pre-launch runway, if not 90 days. You can give yourself even more time, so that again, your buyer has that time to go through a sequence of again, internal shifts as they experience this content before they actually are aware of your offer. So one of the very first things that you'll want to do, so if they're on your email list, for example, especially for email marketing, is you'll want to tell them ahead of time that you're going to be launching. Something that I have seen in some email marketing campaigns lately is that at the very beginning, when someone opens an email before they scroll on their phone, you'll actually see a little box that will say, this is the pre-launch runway to whatever it is that they're offering. And they already give this link, renewing consent, if they want to hear more about the offer. And so it's important to give that consent, or ask them to renew their consent. Like, do you want to keep on hearing about this paid offer from me? And then when you renew that consent, begin to understand what their hesitations might be, and not just understand them, but actually validate them. And then reframe them. When someone feels like they've been validated before you actually try to argue or make a different marketing argument, they will be in a much better place, or that prospect will be in a much better place to receive whatever it is you are trying to persuade them or convince them of. And honestly, I don't really love the words persuade and convince, more so how can we make sure we're giving them enough content such that they have thoughtfully and from an educated place have decided naturally what the next step is. So understanding those objections or hesitations, validating them, and then reframing them with something new. And I'll give some examples as well. So for example, let's say I was a career coach for therapists, just use that example. And I wanted to sell them on a mini course on LinkedIn. Like, you should market your services on LinkedIn. And, one hesitation that they may have is, but I can't find my clients on LinkedIn, right? Like, that's not where I'm going to find new business. But then you can reframe that by saying, oh, I totally hear you. That makes a lot of sense, because your clients, you've currently been working the Instagram game really well. But did you know that if you use LinkedIn, you can actually find other therapists to connect with, and they could possibly be like referrals for you, and they can continue to send business to you, right? So it's like, it's validating and then reframing. But like, again, if my course is that, if I'm selling them a course on like getting more business on LinkedIn, right? Like, I can't tell them about my product yet. I have to convince them of this first thing, that like, oh, it's actually something that I could consider, and like reframe that first thing. And then after you help them reframe these beliefs that they have to understand before they even know about your product, then you'll want to start to share things like your own experience and your own authority, or why, first of all, like your own experience getting results for others, or your own experience, to then reinforce those original beliefs that you've already shared. So main thing is like, what are the beliefs that my audience needs to believe about themselves, about the industry, about me and this offer, and how can I make sure I share all of that early on before I even say anything about my offer? Because then you'll turn into, why is this offer going to be different? Or why is this particular course going to be different? And this is where a content piece that's going to be really helpful is your own origin story. That's something that nobody can copy. So it's really important to ask yourself, what was a defining moment where you had this realization, or you had your own aha where you had your own internal belief shift. So, for like that same example, let's say I had a moment where I'm a therapist and I've been on Instagram only, and I realized, oh my goodness, like I'm only on one platform and I really need to, I can't just be on one platform. I really have to expand my network. And I saw my friend, Dr. Shoemaker, who was telling me how many referrals he was getting from LinkedIn. And so I tried it myself, and it was a difficult like first couple of tries, because it was so new and I struggled because it was a new platform and I'm not really into like LinkedIn or whatever. But I figured it out, and I figured out how to lasting relationships. And that's why I've decided to share whatever. So then it's like, you're really sharing your own personal experience. I know that was like probably
I think it illustrated the point though.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it definitely illustrated the point.
But there we have like those, you'll want to ask yourself, like, what is that aha or that realization that you had personally? And if you look at people who have big audiences, who has a good example, who have repeated examples that you may have heard, if you've heard of Jenna Kutcher, for example, and her whole idea of like, oh, I started my business like getting a camera off of Craigslist, like, right? Like that's a story that she tells a lot. So then when you talk about your own story, and you share about like, why is this offer so specifically different? That's where you're really honing in on specificity. And this is something that when you get this right, and you get that perfect, like, who is that one person in this exact stage, then it's a lot easier to be very clear on who is this not for and who is this for later on when you finally introduce to that offer. So in summary, starting off with like really telling your audience what's happening and not like waiting to sell them like later on, like not introducing that you're going to be selling something way later.
I have made that mistake. The very first time I launched anything, that was my mistake. Oh, it was before Coaches and Company. It was actually like my first attempt at, I mean, it was an attempt, I guess that's still accurate. Like it was okay, but it was my first digital product, right? And so I didn't tell I literally was like, surprise, this is for sale. And then like was surprised why there were crickets. Like, why was I shocked? Why did I expect everyone was just gonna be like throwing their money at me? Like, I mean, surely it was deserving of that, because it was a great product and my people needed it. And like, it was wonderful. But why would I expect they would understand when I didn't even share that they could expect for it to be, they couldn't anticipate it, much less begin the transformation that, okay, so in summary, yes. So
that's a really good, like, I feel like all of us have that experience, right? But if we think about it from the customer's perspective, and we're like, okay, the first thing that I want my customer to hear when they're experiencing this pre-launch runway is I want them to feel like they were offered the consent to opt out, or like they were told in advance, which gave them like, oh, I have a lot of time to process this, right? So you want them to feel like, I have a lot of time to process this. I have time. I have the choice to opt out. I have the choice to keep on going on this journey. So that's the first thing, affirming their choice to continue to receiving promotional messages or to hear more details. You also want them to feel like, I feel validated, and I feel understood. And now I feel like, oh, I'm open to hearing how this is I'm open to reframing my thoughts and my doubts that I have. Because early on, they're going to have a lot of doubts. So you want them to feel validated. You want them to feel open to having reframed those hesitations. Again, because everyone is going to be so much more open to a reframe or a marketing argument when they feel validated. So reframe those objections or hesitations with something new, a new belief for them to consider. And then you want to talk about your own, you want them to feel like, oh, okay, I can really trust this person because they have their own experience, they have authority, and they've served a lot of people like me. You want them to feel like, oh, it is going to be different this time because she has thought so much about how this is very specific to my situation. When a buyer feels like they are, like all of their questions have been answered in advance, that's where a lot more trust is also, like, they will feel a lot more trust as well. And then instead of like coming up with new marketing arguments and when you're closer to actually selling or opening the cart, that's where you want to keep on reinforcing the new beliefs that you introduced before. And so reinforcing them and again, taking them on this journey, because it's like, if they're excited about something, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be committed. So then it's like, what do I need to share with them such that they can be committed to this new idea or this new version of themselves? Because we're not selling things. We're always selling, like, what is the new version of this person? And how can I sell them on being committed to that? Because it's not just like, the sale is just one thing, right? But it's like, if you're sharing with your prospects what it's like to be committed, and in a non-shamey way, right? But in a way that's like, they believe more in themselves, then that will create a lot more safety in like the change and the transformation. Because a lot of people will not buy something because it's just, they don't feel safe to make this change. And so that's also where we also want to introduce, like, how can I make sure my messaging is creating that safety early on and also consistently throughout. So, was that a good summary?
Yes, that was great. So like, we are taking our people and the people that we are in a position to serve and support and help improve their lives, improve their businesses, whatever it might be, whatever your offer is. We are in that pre-launch period, taking them from through an initial that pre-launch period is the pre-transformation, right? It's an early transformation.
Exactly.
They're transforming from a person who is not educated in your, whatever it is, the solution is that you offer. They have beliefs that need to be, I don't want to say their beliefs need to be transformed, but they are not in a position to make an empowered and educated decision to commit to the ultimate transformation, the ultimate solution that you've designed, if it is the right fit for them. So it's also a matter of helping them navigate whether or not this is the right, because you don't even want them to buy if it's not the right fit.
Exactly.
You can't help them if they're not the right fit.
Exactly. And that's where specificity comes in, and that clarity in terms of like, because you've thought so, if the creator has thought so specifically on like what is the one moment where this problem is relevant to be solved, then it becomes easy for that prospect or whoever to decide like, oh, I was really curious about this, but this is actually like, I actually need to do all of these other things first, or what have you, or like, so once you've gotten that curiosity and that excitement, you want to help them renew their own commitment to that outcome, such that they believe in themselves and that it's safe for them to actually go through that transformation that you're sharing. Share why, like, it is actually going to be different this time, maybe because you've designed something different that's a new that is totally unique and that has not been offered yet in the market before. And that you do have that intimate understanding of that specific challenge that they're going through. And because you've had that experience helping other people before. And so in all of that needs to happen before you actually introduce your offer. It's a lot of it, like considering who that buyer needs to, again, who do they need to be before they have decided to become a buyer. Because then it's like, if you have that shift and they're ready, they've done all of these things and they're ready to buy, then you've uncovered who is the perfect lead. And then you're in a much better position to then also retain the customer later on, because you've shared the right messages at the right time. That again strengthened the who the customer actually is, instead of having customers who were like, oh, this wasn't actually what I wanted. So
yeah, I love that. Okay, so how, I know you're a big proponent of email marketing. So we're definitely sharing these pieces of content with our people via email. Excuse me. How do you have a preferred strategy or framework for how you repurpose, or rather break up your content? So like, do you start with the email campaign and then use that to inform your social media posts?
That's a great question. I love that question. So I really, really strongly think that email, it needs to be, well, especially also with like the iOS 15 updates, is with the clicks in your emails being the more important email metric that you'll want to be tracking. You will, I personally think that email needs to be like the place where your customers are finding you. This is also personally why like I'm like spending less time on social media, but so I would, if you were asking the question of like, okay, what do I say in my emails and what do I say on social media? If you do have email and social media, then I would make sure that your social media is actually continuing to drive people to your email list, and that people on social media are continuing to understand that you're not getting repurposed content in your email, but rather like this is where like your email is where all of the juice happens, and that like your social media, you're sharing more. You're not sharing so much like identity content, or like the content that is specifically designed to like get people to be warmer for an offer, but rather like building that relationship with them, and then really taking that to, okay, I have even more value that I want to share with you. And that's on my email list. Do you want me to share more specific examples than that?
So
as far as like
a
pre-launch?
I just want to highlight a few things. So I love the concept of using social media to share this relatable content, to share this like content that can increase your brand awareness, and of course can warm up your audience on there. But the ultimate goal, I mean, I don't know if we can say it should be, but it can be very beneficial to you in getting people, moving your people and your audience from Instagram or from LinkedIn or from Facebook or whatever, wherever you're at, and move them to your email list. Everybody already knows, like, you want to have your own list of your people and your audience that want to hear from you, but then also using that to, earlier you mentioned providing a second opt-in. within
Mhm.
your email, with your email list. So I love the idea of, hey, you guys, we're having a conversation with my email. Like there's a conversation going on. If you want to be a part of it, come join us, because it's not the same conversation we're having here on Instagram. We're having fun and stuff here, but if you really want the juice, join us on our email list. That's where we're really going to be sharing all the good stuff this month, or over, the next few weeks, or whatever it is that you're doing, in that pre-launch period. And then I love, 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 love the concept of having that. I mean, it's a classic illustration of permission marketing, but
Oh yeah.
in such an amazing way within your launch period, because then it's
Yeah.
like, hey, do you want to hear more about this? And that right away gives you next level permission to communicate with this person about your offer. And then you don't even have to deal with those, annoying voices telling you that you're bothering the people you're emailing, because they literally said, I want to hear from you. I want to hear more about this.
Yes. We've and this was something that like I carefully did with one of my most recent clients, where before her cart open, we shared another message renewing consent. And we had that opt-in message multiple times, actually. Or like if you do not want to hear about this, I would recommend having that multiple times in your pre-launch period. Like, they may delete some things, they may not open them. But especially like right before you open cart, and continue to renew that consent, especially like right before you open, and say, it's okay if you want to unsubscribe from this, but you want to stay on our regular newsletter list. That's not a problem at all. So then it's just, and on the back end, it's a matter of making sure that your tech is actually, opting them out, or you have a specific, tag or list that makes sure that those people that have expressly said that they're not going to be, they do not want to hear promotional messages. And then you have higher open rates as well, because you've segmented them correctly. And so that's where if people are looking to raise their email click-through rates, the number of people that click on the links in your emails, then segmenting is definitely going to be something that we want to be more diligent about. And again, just renewing that, and have like a quarterly task inside of your business where you are you're not scrubbing and cleaning everybody without their consent either, but just asking them again, do you want to be on this email list? If not, no problem. Maybe like quarterly or every 6 months. But again, just the whole idea of permission marketing and yes, renewing that consent. And honestly, if you have a small email list under 500, then why not know everybody who's on there? Like why not send them all like a personal Loom video saying, thank you so much for being on my email list. That's coming from someone who like taught hundreds of kids in a school, but if you don't have the time, sometimes it's about doing those things that are not scalable, right? And it's like combining automation, but then also infusing where are those more human elements that I can actually allow so like if someone has a free challenge, or if they have like a free webinar or a free masterclass, and they have hundreds of people opt into that is the perfect opportunity for you to send them a personalized Loom video during a pre-launch phase, because it's like, you're not selling them on anything yet. You're just saying, thank you so much for opting into it, or for joining this free masterclass. I'm really excited to see you there. Use their first name, affirm their character, and share like what that means about them. And add that meaning to like, oh, you opted into my free webinar on how to grow your business. Like this means that you are a really diligent, hardworking business owner. I already knew that, just because this is why you're here. And I'm really excited to get to know you more, etc. So it's like, that sort of thing is going to take like 30 seconds, right, to send to people. But I think like, again, adding those human elements to that pre-launch period and is, again, it may not be scalable, but it's also it adds more delight, and it adds more.
Oh, I love the delight.
It adds more like, oh, this is different. I'm going to pay more attention because she'd put in the time or to
I'm not just another number.
Yeah, I'm not just another number. And anyways, hopefully that was a good example that anyone can like swipe and take for yourself if you have like a free conversion event going on or a magnet live event going on. To put in that time in your calendar to do so. It takes time, launching takes time and energy, but relationships honestly are always going to be the best form of marketing over like ads, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's been my experience too. And I mean, before I ever entered into the world of paid ads, it was all relationships. And that's why it was so fun and easy to do business, you know, because it's not just pushing something that you don't believe to people that you don't care about or know. It's like, I'm here to support and serve these people that I recognize they're real people that have full lives and businesses. And, you know, we're all out here doing our thing. And so I love the idea of having those personal touches, especially if you're early on in business. Like, okay, maybe you do want to have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of signups and purchasers for your offers in the future. But like right now, if you are, you know, under 50 sales in a launch, like, I don't see why not, right? Like reaching out, like imagine how far that can go and letting people know, and these are people in your community. These are people that also, if they are signing up or if they're buying from you, like they know who you are, you know? So get to know them too. I love that lesson. Thank you so much, Jackie. So what is your big message for us that you'd like to leave us with? Yes, clear your throat, and then bless us with the words.
Well, I am definitely always a proponent that business is an inside job first, and that if you want to grow your business, it has to start with that. I mean, self-awareness, like it doesn't sound like it's a really sexy, fun thing, but honestly, it's like, and it's a work in progress. It will always be a work in progress. But if you can prioritize knowing yourself and prioritize being honest with those places where you know you know, may make mistakes, or you may need feedback from people that you love. Be honest with that, and it will only spread into other areas of your life, whether that's like your personal life or your business or both. I really honestly think that when we start with ourselves and we really take care of anything internal, it's going to affect, again, our messaging to our audience. It's going to affect our sales messages. It's going to affect the type of offers that we create and the vision that we want to take our businesses toward. So start with you. Don't be afraid to start with you, and don't be afraid to say no to what other people think you should be doing, and give yourself permission to want what you want to do. Okay, that was like a long thing.
Good. Okay, but so good. Like I hope anyone listening, if that was something that you needed to hear, like I love that so much, is, you know, just start with you, you know, and start with you, and provide yourself with what it is that you need to grow and to thrive and to expand and to receive support and just all these things. And I absolutely relate to that, is that when you do that work, that inner work, that personal awareness or self-awareness or self-consciousness or whatever you want to call it, really getting to know yourself and asking yourself questions that maybe you'd never asked yourself before, or taking a closer look at things maybe you had ignored for quite some time, or it just became the default. When we start to question those things, that is where we begin to experience growth and expansion and deepening of relationships and deepening of our why it is that we do what we do, what drives us to do what we do. Why should I get up in the morning and do what it is that I was planning on doing today? Oh yeah, it's because, and I've already examined all of those things and reinforced those things and explored those things. And so thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing that. And I really appreciate you. We're going to have all of Jackie's information in the comments or the description section of this video or the show notes if you're listening to this audio. And you can connect with Jackie I know you said you're spending less time on Instagram because all the juice goes on the email list, right?
It is.
But you're still on there. What is your Instagram for those that are listening?
My Insta is Jackie Sunga Co. So JackieSungaCo.
Love it. Thanks again, Jackie.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Talk to you soon.